Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter. And this is Tuesday, Toss Up Tuesday. Can we call it Toss Up Tuesday now? Since it's kind of the odd day for NFL, right? Because we had the showdown yesterday. We'll take a little bit of look at last night's showdown slate, look through results DB, and then the teams don't even practice until Wednesday. There's not all that much to do on Tuesday. I still consider it a review day more than anything else. And then Wednesday kind of starts the next week for NFL. But if you got any questions, anything at all, I'm tossing it up to you. Right? We'll take a look at some showdown stuff. There's a Champions League soccer. That starts this afternoon. You get in those streets. If you want to do something at 3:00 Eastern in the afternoon, Paramount Plus, they have a Golazo channel, and it's 6 games all at once, and typically there's a lot of action. So feel free to join in for some DFS soccer. I could talk that, right? I'll be making lineups afterwards. But I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Edward Brown, Suki Singh, Colin Lawson, Major One-on-One, Real Life Pitcher, Eric Hilpold, Jerome Lewis, March Mimic, Max Coach, Matt Mears, Edward Brown is there again. And yeah, so give me those thummy thumbs on your way in the door. Subscribe if you're new here and hit the notification bell to know when we go live. I'm not even sure. Are there any live shows today? Yeah, the MLB, right? I forgot baseball. Baseball still exists, right? So I'll have Grinders live later tonight. Crunch time for premium members. Sign up for a RotoGrinders premium. Click on the link in the description and you'll get $10 off your first month. But yesterday did not go well for me in showdown. I had plenty of Marquise Brown and the captain, but no, yeah, and a lineup. It was a split first for it was a decent payday. So if you had that lineup, that was pretty good. At one point there was a 324 way tie for first, and I just sit there going, I'm never making that lineup. So if that wins, it wins. The main thing that I did yesterday was I played a lot of wide receiver in the captain, whether it be Marquise Brown or Sammy Watkins for the Ravens, or Ruggs and Edwards for the Raiders, because Waller was going to be, and Waller and Renfro were going to be more popular, and Mark Andrews and Tyson Williams were going to be more popular for the Ravens. So I played a lot of wide receiver captain lineups. And so the Marquise Brown ones, weren't bad. I mean, I cashed some lineups, right? But still lost money on the day. I wanted to avoid Lamar Jackson captains, because I don't even know if you can make a unique lineup that way. More inclined to make Derek Carr captains than anything else. But I just basically was avoiding Waller. I still had some. I mostly had Waller in lineups that didn't have Carr, because they were both close to the same price, right? 1,000 difference. So I would just play for, just Carr or Waller. And then some of those lineups were just like Waller plus Ruggs, something like that. Waller plus Kenyon Drake, where you're not even taking the quarterback. But I had Lamar Jackson in all of my lineups. And you can see here, I bring up the Millie last night for the showdown. And I was making similar style lineups to a lot of sharper players, right? So I looked at that afterwards, and I'm like it wasn't just me. Yeah, there were plenty of sharp players that did the opposite. So I'm going to play a ton of Waller, right, and try to get different elsewhere and play. I had some sharp player playing 50% lineups with Willie Snead in it, right? And people, obviously Josh Oliver, see across the board, He came in at 3% owned, and most sharp players were over on him for like what, $300. He almost caught. He had one target in the end zone, but he didn't. It was it's Carr throwing the ball, so it's not the greatest pass. But he could have gotten there. But I mean, if you played Zay Jones instead, okay, there you go. Last play of the game, right? That was a wild game. But like Prosh over here, he was on the field maybe a couple of times. Willie Snead would end zone target right off his hands, and it was intercepted. That could have gotten you there. But I mean, the most noticeable thing across the board was the Darren Waller ownership. You know, just 60% owned, and we have all these sharp players: RBX 88, Sammy Knoll, Wakey, FJ Bourne, JBC, Tyrannosaurus Rex. I mean, for the most part, under. I mean, like significantly. Ending had 1%, barely any. Right, and then a lot more Derek Carr than the field. He was only 55%, which is kind of low for a quarterback in a game with nearly a 51 total. So I built a lot of lineups with like Marquise Brown in the captain, Lamar Jackson in the flex, then like Carr plus one of the Edwards or Ruggs, and then played like Tyson Williams and like a kicker and like Tucker. Like that was kind of like the construction that I was doing. Sometimes, leaving 1,000 on the table, leaving 1,200 on the table. Sammy Watkins and captain, like not spending up at and I some Tyson Williams captains. A lot of times the Tyson Williams captains were more like the onslaught in the flex position. So Tyson Williams, Lamar Jackson, and then it's like Carr, Ruggs, Waller, and someone cheap. Tylan Wallace, I don't know. He plays the Ravens. Like making those types of constructions. They weren't. I did not have any unique lineups, but I also didn't have lineups that were duplicated like 200 times. I was hand building yesterday. I built 15 lineups. I had 18 technically. I played 3 small field single entry 3 max. I cashed one of those, right? But when you don't have 29.5, when you don't have the highest scorer on the slate in much of your lineups, like 4 out of 18 lineups, you're not gonna have a good day. You're not gonna have a good day, and the winning lineup didn't have the winning field GPP lineup didn't have Lamar Jackson in it, right? Waller, Carr, Brown, Williams, Watkins, Renfro. Boom. $181,876. What was it? 14-way tie. That's what it says here. Are you sure about that? I thought it was like a 99,000 payout or something. Still good. Still good. I have no problem playing a lineup like this, right? A lineup that it's not unique, but it's duplicated under for a milli under 20, 25 times. I don't mind. But then we get to the next one. It's like, oh, let's see the next. Yeah, this one was duplicated a ton. 200 salary remaining. Waller, Carr, Jackson, Williams, Renfro, Zay Jones. Which even though he's 2.72% owned, I mean, still this lineup is, we could probably scroll all the way down and see tons more uniques. We see a lot of people that won, right? The first place lineup from mostly not many entries, right? Putting the other one lineup and not playing Lamar Jackson, which is fine. That absolutely fine way to go. You could have decided to make. I could have decided to make 15 lineups like that. I chose my leverage point to be Waller and not Jackson, and it seems like a lot of people agreed with me. So I mean, this is all you could do to look at. Obviously, once you have a large sample size of showdown contests, you could start gauging, your uniqueness factor. You could start gauging things like that that you're playing well over and over and over and over again, long scale period. Because remember, the whole goal in showdown is to win first, and you're probably not going to do that. You're going to play 50 slates and just lose, and then hopefully have a big payday. It's not about winning every slate. Actually, it's completely the opposite. Probably lose 95% of showdown slates. Then one, bink, and then you're good, right? Over the past 3 years or something, I've won 3 showdown slates with a fairly unique, not solo, but close enough. But they were $50,000 paydays. So I'll take that. I'll bleed a little bit of money to get on average one of those a year. And then you play for that. Let's go through the YouTube chat. See what's going on. It's Toss Up Tuesday. Okay. It's gonna be a little shorter show. I got something at noon. I'm recording the Theory of DFS podcast. If you want to subscribe there on iTunes, I'm doing that at noon. So we'll be out of here about 11:45 or so, depending on what you got for me in the YouTube chat. Okay, it's Toss Up Tuesday, right? Is that a new thing now? I guess we're gonna make it a new thing. Toss Up Tuesday. I'm tossing it up to you. Jim Steele, first ever showdown bink last night. Well, congratulations. Well, obviously not in a large field. But you probably made decent money in like the mini max or whatever you were in. Real King says, just so you know, we're playing lineups, not players, echoed in my head all Sunday morning. And the lineups I really paid attention salvaged my weekend. Well, it's good. That's pretty good. Okay. Like I said, if you don't get anything from me, I mean, this will be a really short show. I'll start talking about soccer if you want. We got Champions League coming up later today. Champions League soccer DFS is the best and is the best sweat in all of DFS. All of DFS. It used to be 8 games at a time. Now Champions League has 2 early games and then 6. 2 games at like 12:30 Eastern and then 6 games. It used to be all 8 at the same time. That was the best. But 6 at the same time. So you get 6 games all at the same time. Typically, they're higher scoring because we have, the best teams throughout all of Europe, which also includes some teams from like smaller countries that they're the best team there, but they're going to be facing, Bayern Munich or Chelsea or, a high-end team. And sometimes these games could get out of control. And since they're playing midweek, a lot of times, the shakeup in lineups, it's hard to predict what the starting 11s are. So obviously paying attention an hour before kickoff when they all get released at the same time, and then deciding from there. And then from 3 to 5, it's 2-hour sweat. It's all it is a 2-hour sweat. You get a 15-minute break right in the middle, so you get to go to the bathroom or something, and nothing's happening in any of the games, pretty much. Right, some go a little over, right? It's like a 10-minute period or so, and it's just you could turn on Paramount Plus and watch any of the games, or they have a Golazo thing where they go to game to get like there's a corner kick, there's a free kick, there's action, things going on. They go game kind of like Red Zone for soccer, and a lot of slates. Like we'll have six games, and there'll be like 30 plus goals. So it'll just be if you look at your standings, it's ding, 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 ding. I mean, like all over the place. And a lot of times the slate isn't decided until like the last 5 minutes, right? I mean, you look, it's like, okay, I'm doing well. And in the last 5 minutes, there's 3 goals in games. And like you go from first down to 172nd, or you go from 172nd up to first, right? You never know. So if you want to join in, we have soccer projections here at RotoGrinders. PSU fans and Fear My Turtle do that. They also have tags here to help you out on who's on set pieces and things like that. They'll update the projections once starting 11s come out. So what you see now is just like based on just projected starting 11s. So typically it takes about like maybe 10 minutes. They bump everything and they change all the minutes and depending on who's in, and then you have something to build with. Just understand, if you're using projections in soccer, goals are heavily weighted into the medians, okay? And they're the biggest events. Soccer is an event-driven sport, similar to baseball, if anything. It's a little bit better than baseball because the players can do other things and get points here and there, right? Crosses and tackles and things like that. Obviously, shots that don't go in. So players do have some amount of floor depending on who they are. A lot of times you see like Alvaro Morata and Romelu Lukaku have like median projection of a 14. Like they're center forwards. Like you ain't getting 14 unless they score, unless they assist or something. Like they're just, I mean, I guess they could have a 7-shot, 5-shot on goal game. They could. I mean, that would be heavy volume. But they don't do much else other than they're in the center. They're there to get the ball, get a cross in, You know, they're going to touch the ball almost the least in the game, but they get the most high value touches that you could possibly get because they're center and close to goal. So when you see, it's like, oh, okay, these guys have good, you know, point per dollar value, right? They go like some of these guys, you go like I mean, a lot of the forwards don't, especially at the forward position. Like some of these guys, like Yusuf Yaziski, like he takes set pieces for Lille and he's 6,000. So like he could get to 13, he could get to this median without a goal or an assist, right? Danny Parejo, if he starts for Villarreal, he could get to 11 without a goal or an assist. Reece James, a defender. Typically, it's these set piece takers. We haven't, you know, Fear My Turtle has them even highlighted out, depending on who's in. Obviously, the lineups could change, right? So, like Paulo Dybala is going to be probably the highest owned forward on the slate because he's midfield forward, and he takes depending on if Cuadrado is in, he'll take half of the set pieces and most of the direct free kicks, especially now that Ronaldo is no longer on Juventus. And in the forward position, like midfielders, you could find guys that like have floors, typically have like, oh, they don't need a goal to get 10 points, right? Defenders, obviously, they don't need a goal to get 10 points. Forwards, you know, you have to roster 2 forwards and they have the highest ceilings on the slate. So like for GPPs, you're probably, if you look at the forward position here, we're going to go by fantasy points, look at forward. Where are we going? Look at forward. A lot of times, like most of the forwards that you're looking at are guys that like they're all kind of goal or busty, very goal dependent. So like when you have Dybala, wherever he went, where did he go? Should he be here? Oh, shoot. Okay, he's coming up as MF, right? So we see here like Depay is someone who's on, you know, most of the set pieces for Barcelona, even though they're an underdog against Bayern. Like guys like that, like Depay and Dybala are guys that they can get to 14 points. You know, their medians kind of without a goal as much so. They get 10 without a goal. But like guys like Morata, Lukaku, Lewandowski, even Gerard Moreno, Yilmaz, Zapata, like these center forwards, like, yeah, in GPP, sure, play 3 of them, right? Because these are the guys that could get 1, 2, 3 goals in a game, more likely than other players. But from like a floor perspective, you want to make a lineup, even in GPP, that has a nice combination of floor and ceiling. So in GPP, you're leaning towards the ceiling side, but you still want some floor. In cash games, you're kind of doing the opposite. You lean more towards the floor. You'd be leaning more towards, you know, playing guys like Ruslan Malinovsky for Atalanta, or a Parejo, or Maximilian Arnold, or Joshua Kimmich, right? Kimmich at 7,500, midfield only. A lot of times he was defender eligible, and he'd be fine there. But they're playing at Barcelona, which is not easy to play. But Barcelona is not the same Barcelona they were. Messi isn't there anymore. So playing 7,500 for essentially a number 6, a defensive midfielder, that's going to be, he has monopoly. He's going to take every free kick, every corner kick, everything. They are in a favored position, but you're paying 7,500. So like Kimmich is the type of guy that, like, if you need to use him in cash games, okay, but his ceiling is suspect. He could get 3 assists, I guess, but he's not going to score often. The guys like Lewandowski on his team, like 10.2K, yeah, he's someone that, I mean, dude, the dude scored 5 goals in 9 minutes once. Okay, came off the bench and scored 5 goals in 9 minutes. Feel free to look that up on YouTube. It was just that was nutso. 5 goals in 9 minutes in soccer. So yeah, so if you don't have any things in the YouTube chat, I'm just going to continue talking about soccer. I want to promote people to play DFS soccer on DraftKings. Why not? What else are you doing today? Typically, Champions League is Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. They skip some weeks because this is the group stage because they play midweek, right? They play in their domestic leagues on the weekend, and then midweek they play Champions League games. But you know, they'll be 6 game weeks, and they're split, you know, week by week because it's 32 teams. So we'll have Tuesday and Wednesday this week. We'll have Tuesday and Wednesday next week. And then it's going to be like you skip 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they do it again, right? It's like every other, so it's not like every Tuesday or Wednesday. And then Thursdays there's Europa League, which is like the same type of competition as the Champions League, but kind of for the lower tier teams, right? They couldn't qualify for the Champions League, so it's still a European competition. And they have 2 sets. So they have like 6 games at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then 6 games at 3 p.m. Eastern, and DraftKings has slates for both of them. And that's when you get some of the really weird teams, right? Here we have like, Dynamo Kiev. We have Zenit St. Petersburg, Malmo, right, from Sweden. Like teams like that aren't in any of the major soccer leagues, like the Premier League in England or La Liga in Spain, Serie A in Italy, Bundesliga in Germany, even Ligue 1 in France. Like you get teams, it's the Bulgarian second place team that qualified, and it's like I don't even know where to go to. You're finding stats on these teams is suspect. You have to look and hope that qualifying rounds. There's a lot of these teams in the smaller countries. Like, Opta doesn't exist already. There's no stats other than goals and assists and substitutions. And sometimes you just have to go through past game logs. Yet a lot of times you to find out some of these stats, you have to go to like play-by-play, right? You go play-by-play and you have to like find it and translate it in Google Translate. And the only reason you go and play-by-play is so you can see like who takes corners, who took some shots, right? To get any sense of how this team plays. But that's Europa League. I can understand if you don't want to do to that extent for Europa League. I don't think we do Europa League soccer projections. I don't believe so. Because that would, I don't Fear My Turtle and PSU fans would, they'd go nuts. Like to do Europa League projections, you have to, I don't know what you need to do, but you're going to have to get stats from somewhere, but which means there's an edge, right? If you want to play, but but that's soccer. But most people play Champions League, so feel free this afternoon to play. So let's see, going through the YouTube chat. Nicholas Lentini, let's take a look at some of the early week NFL totals for Sunday. Why? Why do we have to do that? What's the point? Why can't you look at that on Saturn? What does it matter now? Let's look at the totals for what? This is how I respond to that. Like what? Why? On Tuesday? Who cares? What is that information going to do for you now? Like you don't have anything. Like there's people want to. If you want to look at it for funsies, sure. But as far as an actual profitable process, it doesn't matter. That's why I didn't want to do that today. Tuesday is a review day. I put together a dummy lineup so I can enter contests. That's about it, right? You should be looking at the past. If you spend all the time looking at the past slate and don't even look at the current slate until Saturday, that's still fine. It's not going away. So all you're doing is just duplicating work that you'd be doing work. Like, what's the point? You could look at them. Okay, great. I looked at them. How long does that take? 20 seconds? And then you move on with your day. People are so, we're going to forget about last slate, no matter what I did, what anyone did, and look at what's going on for next Sunday. Maybe you'll learn more by looking at the previous slate more. I download the CSVs. I look at Results DB. I go through the showdown, right? Because then you got showdown dynamics. And you go, okay, there's more to learn there than looking at totals that aren't, if the total goes up 3 points, well, it'll be there on Saturday. It'll be there on Friday. What do we need to do now? Matthew P, are you going to do the opposite of the week 1 bias people? It depends. It depends on where the bias is. Because I don't think people are necessarily going to chase game logs, but I think people will overreact to certain things. You need to find out what the people will overreact to. Like, for instance, like if you thought game log wise, you would go Najee Harris. He had 6 points last week for the Steelers, but he played 100% of the snaps. So at what? He's like 6,000. He's like around 6,000 on both sides. He's going to play 100% of the snaps, and the Steelers are going to play the Raiders this coming Sunday. I mean, I'll play a running back that plays. I mean, running back is all about opportunities. So if you tell me he's going to play 100% of their snaps, I want to play him. But his game log looks horrible. Looks like 6. I think the narrative, the bias this week will be that will make Najee Harris one of the most owned running backs on the slate. Right. Probably rightfully so. He's going to play 100% of the snaps. What happens if he doesn't play 100% of the snaps? What happens if the next thing you know, you see Snell in and it's 60-40? Is that going to happen? I have no idea. Probably not. But there's a chance that he's not going to play 100% of the snaps again. There's a chance that Elijah Mitchell, whatever his name is, Mitchell for the 49ers, isn't going to be like, if he ends up being 15-20% owned at running back, like most of his yardage came, most of his work came when the 49ers were up by like 3 touchdowns. And then maybe because Mostert is injured, they'll have Sermon active now. So there'll be 3 running backs, and maybe Mitchell, maybe Hasty gets most of the work. Maybe they split 3 ways, and none of them matter. So people may overreact that way to Mitchell. Like you have to go like player by player, because if you're using projections, it'll already take care of that for you. Are people not going to play Calvin Ridley against the Buccaneers? They probably will, even though the Falcons were horrible last week. I mean, like, he still probably is going to be owned. Is Jamar Chase at 5,000? He's probably going to project decently based on the target shares from last week. But maybe he only sees 3 targets this game. So how is the field going to overreact? Well, I need to know how the field is. It's Tuesday. I have no clue. But if I hear on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if I constantly hear, well, Jamar Chase is too cheap at 5,000, and if I see projections have him high, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to play like Tyler Boyd, right? But it could be that no one mentions it. Maybe the ongoing thing, maybe projections will come in a little bit lower for him, and people will be like, well, he can't replicate that. Jamar Chase got a bunch of targets that Boyd should have gotten because of X, Y, and Z. And most people would be like, don't game log chase Jamar Chase, right? Don't game log chase him. Don't be a game log watcher. And maybe then he's only 5% though, and then I play. Because maybe Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 1 for the Bengals. Like, that's what I mean. Like, how do I decide what to do until I know what other people are going to do? So it's Tuesday. So what am I supposed to do? I have no idea what other people are going to do. All I could look is initial projections, and I don't know. Most of these haven't been adjusted, tweaked in any regard. So what is it to do? Why am I looking at totals? Like, why am I looking at totals? Why am I looking at the slate? I'd rather hear the review, right? You listen to some podcasts that review the past slate. And a lot of times they'll talk about the things, he got unlucky this way. Like with Najee Harris, 100% of the snaps, right? Or people say that Cook only got like 72% of the snaps. Is he worth 9,100? Well, maybe I play him then. Maybe that'll lower. Maybe because of that, people adjust projections down. We can even see here, Dalvin Cook, from an RGV perspective, is much lower. But they're facing Arizona, who plays at the fastest pace in the NFL. So if Dalvin Cook comes in at 8% owned on next Sunday, yeah, give it to me. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I have no idea. Are people going to overreact to Darrell Henderson, right, playing like 94% of the snaps or something? Or was it just the fact that Sony Michel is still new and they don't trust him to go out there without knowing like the full playbook or something? And maybe next week Darrell Henderson gets 60 and Michel gets 40, maybe. But I need to see what the field is going to do first. The key is not to predict outcomes. It's just to go against some people that think they're too sure, right? You may hear all week. You may see projections may look like it. They give projections. Someone has to put in rushing shares and target shares and snap shares into that, right? It's that the model doesn't do that for you. Someone, a human being, has to do that. So someone may put in Darrell Henderson with 95% of the work, and he'll project what? Well, what if he doesn't get 95% of the work? What happens if we have shows all week here at RotoGrinders? You should subscribe to the RotoGrinders Fantasy Football, daily fantasy football feed on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll hear Chop, I'll hear Grant, I'll hear Will, I'll hear all these people. And yeah, they're trying to put together what they think. You listen to other podcasts, other shows, you read articles around the industry. Maybe everyone's like 5,700 is too cheap for Darrell Henderson. If he's going to get 90+% of targets, the 90+% of rushes, like 57 is too cheap against Indianapolis. Next thing you know, he's 22, 24% off. I go from the perspective of maybe he's not going to get 90%, right? But it could be. Maybe people think like I just said. Sony Michel is gonna vulture too much, right? Maybe the first week he was 95%, but I don't see that going forward. Then everyone's like, I don't know if we should trust this Darrell Henderson. Then he comes in at 11% though. Well, then I probably have more of them, right? So my decision cannot be made until I know what is the most likely the decision of other people for these types of players. So that's the key. That's why I look on Tuesday and go, what are you doing on Tuesday? How could you judge anything on Tuesday? Let's see. Going through the YouTube chat. Ronald Coley, did I hear you right yesterday when you said you were thinking that high-priced running backs aren't a must anymore and wide receivers are more of a priority due to touchdown dependency? Well, the point that I was making yesterday, and I believe I made it yesterday, yeah, when we talking with James, is that running back at all players' ceilings correspond to touchdowns, especially at running back. Okay? Running back is more about volume and opportunity. Okay? So if I tell you across the board, right, that, I mean, we do it with like, what's the difference between Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and David Montgomery or something like those type of guys, right? We're going to take out the guys that catch passes more out of the backfield. Well, Henry, like, he's yardage and touchdown based. Chubb is yardage and touchdown based. Montgomery is yardage and touchdown. Maybe Carson, Jacobs, guys that really get, even Darrell Henderson to some extent. A lot of these guys really don't catch that many passes out of the backfield. So you need 100 yards and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. For the ceiling, so what's really, outside of touchdowns, what's the difference between Henry getting 120 yards and Melvin Gordon getting 120 yards? Nothing other than the touchdowns. And if touchdowns are more variant, Henry got stuffed 3 times the goal line, right? Like, or the team just sucks and the touchdowns come via air. Or the backup running back happens to be in. I mean, there's so many ways for these running backs to get vultured or get stuffed at the goal line and stuff like that, that the only difference between those types of players are touchdown variants. Now, at wide receiver on DraftKings, since it's full PPR, let me go to wide receiver. Come on, let's go to wide receiver. Look at the guys at the top here. 8, and they're even cheaper than McCaffrey and Cook and Kamara. 8K, 7K, like Hopkins, Diggs, Metcalf, Ridley, Jefferson, Lockett, Thielen. I mean, we go through all these guys. If they don't score a touchdown, DeAndre Hopkins could still have 8 catches for 120 yards, right? Without a touchdown. 8, no problem. So how many points is that? That's 23 points. How many points does a running back need in order to get to 23? He probably needs a touchdown. Unless he's catching 5 passes, 6 passes, 7 passes out of the backfield. Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf. We have so many of these wide receivers that could show up with 10 catch, 150-yard games that don't even score a touchdown. And they put up 28 points. And they're actually cheaper than some of the higher end running backs. So with that being said, especially in GPP, if the difference between Dalvin Cook and Damian Harris is really a touchdown and like what, 4 catches? Maybe Dalvin Cook gets 4 catches out of the backfield for 30 yards. That's just another touchdown for Damian Harris. I mean, the price is so dramatically different. 9,100 versus 5,400. So outside of touchdown, if Damian Harris scores, gets 100 yards and 1 touchdown, that's the bonus. That's 19 points. What's the difference between him and Dalvin Cook? If Dalvin Cook got 100, the same thing, 101, and then also 4 catches for 30 yards. So that's a 7-point difference. 19 versus 26, but you're paying almost twice for it. So unless Dalvin Cook scores twice, or happens to, catch 8 passes out of the backfield for 70 yards, something like that, which these guys, I guess, can do. McCaffrey, most definitely. I mean, look, McCaffrey had, 27 points this past Sunday without a touchdown. Sure, but that's what you're paying the 9,900 for. But he still wasn't necessary. He still wasn't necessary, right? You could have had him, but most likely you didn't need him. You could have had Mixon. There were plenty of cheaper running backs that matched his score. But if McCaffrey would have put in the end zone twice, or got one of the bonuses at least, he would have had like 38 to 40 points. And then you need him, right? So I think people think in terms of the wide receivers being more variant than the running backs, but in fact, I'm much more. The ceilings of these wide receivers, especially at the high end, are much higher on average than the running backs. Yet the high end running backs could have the highest ceilings. Like McCaffrey, Kamara, and Cook, they could put up 60-point games. I mean, a receiver would need like 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. I mean, Devontae Adams has done it before. Obviously, we've seen Tyreek Hill do it. But if McCaffrey gets the double bonus and 3 touchdowns, like there's no wide receiver that could put up a score like that, right? So yes, but on average, if you're aiming for just a 30-point score, like there's more wide receivers that could do it without scoring a touchdown. That's the key part here. If you remove touchdown variance from the equation, it's very similar to soccer. Soccer, when you play, like especially cash games, you pretend to get the game that there's going to be no goals in any of the games, and go, okay, what would be the best lineup then? So it's very similar here. You took away the touchdowns altogether. Like, who would you be playing? You'd be playing these high-end wide receivers and the cheaper running backs. So build a lineup like that and then hope touchdown variance goes your way. Like that could be a better way to play without having to feel the need to jam in, some 8 to 9K running backs only to play like these 3 and 4K wide receivers who are unlikely to show up with a 30-point game without a touchdown, right? Like that. So that's kind of the point that I was making. Edward Brown, Lukaku is projected to be the highest owned forward, not coming in too many lineups I'm running. Make it make sense. Yeah, well, he's the highest goal scoring odds forward. Chelsea are like a minus 550 favorite at home to Zenit. Lukaku leads the line. He's 10-5. He's the most likely to score a goal, but I mean his median is not that high in comparison. So for GPP, yeah, he's going to be 40% owned because he's the highest anytime goal scoring odds player on the slate. He's the best shot at 2 goals or 3 goals even, right? If that happens, that's why he's going to be owned. But there are plenty of people underneath that with maybe like Lukaku, I think is minus 175 anytime goal scoring, which is pretty high, right? We're talking about like what? 62%, something like that. 64%, something around. But he needs that goal. If he doesn't score a goal, he doesn't pay off a 10-5 salary. And typically in Champions League, there are a lot more goals. So Lukaku with 1 goal at 10-5, I can find a goal elsewhere. I'll play. There are tons of other forwards in other games, or you play someone else on Chelsea. You play, if Havertz starts, play Havertz, who's 7,600. It's a little bit more of a sub risk. You can play him. He is decent. He's like plus 140 to score. You do that instead. But that's where you get the hot Lewandowski. All those guys that have high goal scoring odds are going to be the most expensive guys. That are also going to be some of the most owned guys because they're more likely to score a goal. In GPPs, typically, I'm the type that doesn't play a lot of those types of players. I try to find cheaper goals. Let's see. John Lopez, Blender, what's up with your dupes from last night? I told everyone on the Showdown show I was hand building, and I knew that I would be fairly duplicated in some ways. I don't know by how much. There's a milli. I don't get it. If I'm building only a small amount of lineups, if I was doing 100 lineups, I would have pruned. I had a different process. But remember, I do the Monday and Thursday Showdown shows here at RotoGrinders. So like it's hard for me to do all of that because I can't do anything until inactives come in. So it's 650 or whatever, 645. And then my process in order to prune for dupes and stuff like that may take me an hour. Well, I'm going to be on a show, and I mean, I show up 10 minutes early to check in for the producer, and and we're doing a show. So being that on Mondays and Thursdays, I'm like, I can't do my normal process. But it's $1 million, so I don't mind being duped a little. So that's why I just hand built. I built 3 single entry, 3 max lineups, and then 15 large field lineups. And that's what I hand built for a half an hour from 650 to 720, and then did the show. So that's the reason. One interesting thing that Tim Light says. One interesting thing I could see just in first glance at week 2 slate is the 4 late games are the highest 4 game totals on the slate. I think this means late swap edge is at its absolute highest this week. That's possible. Yes, definitely. Greg Tao, yes. About halfway through the MLB season, the lineup HQ team made it to where you could click on the team stacks and see all the stacks of a certain team. Are they working on that for NFL? Yes. I literally pointed that out to the team because I'm like, I do like user feedback to the developers. I did last week's meeting. I literally brought that up, and it was already, and it turns out it was already on their checklist anyway, right? When you go when you go to your lineups, you typically have like a stack. It shows how many of each like stack type of thing, and you could click and then just get those here. If you use here's a power user move. If you want, if it's not ready by this week, you could use the whatever verbiage. Like if we go to MLB, I'm going to show this to Craig. I'll go to MLB because obviously we could show it in MLB. Okay, I already switched over to MLB. Okay, switch over to MLB. Let's just build whatever. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. I'm not playing anything. Let's see, you're building 5-3, whatever, at 100%. Let's just press it. Just get something. Give me something, please. We're doing it? Okay, like 10, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the stack summary, you have the quick links here. So here's your San Francisco Giants stats, right? Shows everything here. You could use this in the filter for NFL. So if you do team : name, so whatever the 3-letter thing that we use in here, or whatever the 2-letter. So Houston Texans would be HOU, right? And then parentheses, the number plus. So if you wanted to see, two game like stacks of 2, right? 2 plus, because that's what a stack would be, quarterback and whatever. Assuming you're building like that. Just use that. Just use this. Just literally use it in the search box. So if you wanted to see your 3-mans, right? You stack Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and Gerald Everett, right? Or something like that. You do team Seattle 3+, like something like that. Obviously, this is baseball, so It's obviously coming up, it's showing me my Mariners stack here, but you could do that in football, in the NFL. All these are links like that. Like if you click on the New York Yankees, that's all these links do, is put that in the search box. So in the NFL, obviously these little links things aren't active yet. They're doing it. It's on the list. To get around that, just put. I know you have to type these in, but it's still possible to do. It's just that there's no quick link in order to do it. So I hope that helps you. Let's see. Anything else in the YouTube chat? I said it's a short show. Short show today. I got a recorded podcast. I got soccer, UCL. Play. Come on, put in a lineup. Turn on the soccer games. If you sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, $10 off your first month by clicking the link in the description. You'll be able to just sort by ownership. This is what most people are playing. And play something else, right? Or play a mix of different things. Put it. It's the opener is like what, a $10 contest, or $18 contest. Play one entry. See how it goes, right? If you need help, our Discord, our soccer Discord is always open. Fear My Turtles in there. PSU Fans is in there. I stop by every once in a while, typically during the slate. You could always ask a question there or something like that. But they have all the tags, especially for like who takes set pieces for this team. It'll have a gray little. You'll see a gray dot in there. And if you want to know like who's going to be popular in cash games, like whoever's in yellow and in orange, right? Dybala and Yazicki are going to be the chalk for cash games, at least. So it gives you something like that, and try it out. Try it out. What else is going on in the in Tuesdays and Wednesdays afternoon? If you're an American, right? Nothing. If you're playing baseball tonight, it doesn't interfere with that, and it never interferes with NFL, right? What else is going on? There's nothing going on. Is anything going on? Is anything, not even like CSGO or some LOL or some esports thing? I have no idea. Golf. There's no golf till Thursday, so you got plenty of time. So get in those soccer streets and give me a thumbs up while you're there. Thumbs up. Give me the thumbs on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders live later today on the YouTube channel. We got obviously tons of NFL shows coming out throughout the week. Yeah, so we'll look a little bit. We'll take a first look a little bit on this coming Sunday slate starting tomorrow, right? And I'll be let's take a look at what's going to happen now. Like, let's still go and review what we did for the previous slate. Study sharp players, study the showdowns, and then we could kind of go with like, okay, how could we approach next Sunday slate? Let's take a first look, see tomorrow. And I will answer your DFS strategy questions as always, because that's what I do here. That's what I do here on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.